contain his laws and traditions. This is Josephus again. And the tradition of the origin of mankind till his death. The interval of time was little short of 3,000 years, but as to the time from the death of Moshe till the reign of Artaxerxes, king of Persia, who reigned after Xerxes, the prophets who were after Moshe wrote down what was done in their times in 13 books. Okay, so we know there are the 5 books of Moshe. We have Chamisha, Chumshei, Torah. Then Josephus says, from the time of Moshe to the time of what? The Persian exile, which followed the Babylonian exile, was 13 books. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about that. These are the basics. From Moshe's telling of events in Bereshit until the time of Artaxerxes, the historian reckons just under 3,000 years. Since we know when Artaxerxes ascended to the throne, 465 BCE, it is easy to determine that Josephus viewed the earliest events of the Torah as happening roughly around 3500 BCE, which agrees with other chronological data he provides elsewhere. However, our main focus is that the books of Moshe are obviously counted singly, and they are followed by 13 prophetic books that Josephus speaks about, Flavius, that would roughly encompass the time from Yeshua to Esther. I'm sorry, from Yehoshua, Joshua to Esther. The latter, Esther, having taken her part in the Purim drama with the same Persian king. But so in other words, Artaxerxes was Ahasuerus, same person. Okay? So our first count is Bereshit, Genesis, Shemot, Exodus, Vayikra, Leviticus, Bamidbar, Numbers, Devarim, Deuteronomy. The first 5 books of Moshe are straightforward. However, let's skip over to what Josephus refers to as the remaining 4 books. The remaining 4 books contain hymns to Elohim and precepts for the conduct of human life. We must now engage in the process of elimination. The serial books of Samuel, Kings, and Chronicles would clearly seem to be outside all but the most liberal interpretations of Josephus' information. Here the historian definitely seems to be drawing a distinction between wisdom literature and historical literature. As he describes section 1, if we apply the strict definition provided by Josephus, there are only 4 books that are non-historical, or they are wisdom and literature. They are, ready? Tehillim, 6. We have the 5 books of what? Moshe Rabbeinu. We have Tehillim, 6. We have Mishlei, Proverbs, 7, according to Josephus, which are hymns to Elohim. Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, Darrell, is 8. You're not sleeping on me, are you?
Oh, no.
9 is Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs. That's 9. Some may argue Lamentations also fits into the writings, and normally it would, into these wisdom literature writings, if it were not for something else Josephus noted. Listen carefully, because there's a lot of stuff here you're going to lose me very easily. Okay? But if you understand what I'm saying, it'll change your understanding of the word of Yahweh. But all the people mourned greatly for King Josiah, lamenting and grieving on his account many days. And Jeremiah the prophet composed an elegy to lament him, which is extant till this time also. Moreover, this prophet denounced beforehand the sad calamities that were coming upon the city, speaking of Yirmiyahu. He also left behind him in writing a description of the destruction of our nation, which has lately happened in our days, and the taking of Babylon. Jewish Antiquities 10, 5, 9, and 10. Okay. The quote, as many scholars suggest, indicates that Flavius included Lamentations, the Lamentations of Jeremiah, as other prophecies, appending it to the book we now have. This was not the only time Josephus made such a grouping. In other words, in our Christian Bibles and in the Masoretic text, Lamentations stands alone in the writings. At the time of Yeshua, Lamentations was part of the book of Jeremiah.
Ah, that makes sense. Okay.
So far we have 9 books at the time of Yeshua. The Torah, Tehillim, Mishlei, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, 9 books. Okay? 9 books. Lamentations are not included at the time of Yeshua. In the 22. What's the name of this message, Wilbur? 22. What's the name of this message, Bruno? 22. The quote, as many scholars suggest, indicates that Josephus included lamentation as part of Jeremiah's other prophecies, as I mentioned. Now, there was another time Josephus made such a grouping. Now, I quote from Flavius, Jewish Antiquities 591. Jewish Antiquities 591. Now, after the death of Samson, listen very carefully, otherwise you're going to miss it. Eli the high priest was governor of the Israelites. Under Eli, the country was afflicted with a famine. And Elimelech of Bethlehem, which is a city of the tribe of Judah, being not able to support his family under so sore of a distress, took with him Naomi his wife, and the children that were born to him by Chilion and Machlon, and removed his habitation into the land of Moab. And upon the happy prosperity of his affairs there, he took for his sons wives of the Moabites, Orpah for Chilion, and Ruth for Machlon. The importance of this passage is that the book of Ruth is never directly mentions Eli the high priest at all, either as high priest or judge of Israel. Furthermore, if we look at the book of Judges, there are many other events that happen after the death of Samson. Therefore, the only possible conclusion is that Josephus has identified the account of Ruth as part of the greater corpus of the book of Judges as he understood it in his day.
That makes total sense.
Because it says after Samson there was Eli, and then the whole book of Ruth during Eli. But Eli is never mentioned in the book of Ruth, but Josephus ties in Eli to the book of Ruth, happening after the death of Samson. When did Samson die? Let's see how many know this by heart, like your rabbi knows it by heart. What chapter is Samson spoken about Shimshon in Shoftim? Shoftim chapter 13, correct.
Okay.
In Shoftim chapter 13, Yahweh speaks about Samson, the Shofet, the judge. So in other words, Eli lived right after the time of Shimshon, putting him squarely, and Ruth and Naomi, that whole account in the book of Judges.
That's true.
So now we have the following. The 10th book was Jeremiah with the addendum of Lamentations, and the 11th book, Vladimir, is Judges with the addendum of Ruth.
Okay.
Did I lose anybody yet?
Nope, you're straight.
So far we have how many books?
10 books.
11 books. So far. We have 11 books. This is the way the Bible was composed at the time of Yeshua. So now we have 13 books accounted for. We really have 11, but if you include Lamentations and Ruth, we have 13. Okay? But they were grouped with Jeremiah and with Judges. You follow me, Wilbur? Lamentations was attached to Jeremiah. They were the Lamentations of Jeremiah. And Ruth was attached to Judges since it took place during the book of Judges. So it's really 11 plus the 2 addendums attached, 13. So we have 26 books remaining to account for. Our next calculation is according to the 12 minor prophets. According to the reckoning of ancient Jewish tradition, the 12 prophets are these: Amos, Habakkuk, Haggai, Hosea, Yoel, Yonah, Malachi, Micah, Nahum, Obadiah, Zechariah, Zephaniah. These 12 minor prophets were counted as one scroll.
Because it was all at the same time.
They were all minor prophets. They were counted as one scroll. The ancient Aramaic term for these 12 is used in the Talmud and elsewhere as Tzarei Asar, or sacred dozen. Furthermore, the same tradition carries over into the Septuagint and even ancient Christian communities such as the Armenian Church, which holds a feast day for the 12 minor prophets, all on the same single day. Interesting?